Γεια σας. Είμαι η Αναστασία Παρετζόγλου, brand manager του Fortune στην Ελλάδα και σας καλωσορίζω με τη σειρά μου στο Delphi Economic Forum. Στη συζήτηση που μόλις ξεκινά, θα έχω τη χαρά και την τιμή να συνομιλήσω με τον Ανδρέα Λιβέρη, τον ελληνικής καταγωγής, πρώην πρόεδρο και διευθύνοντα σύμβουλο της Dow Chemical, ιδρυτή και πρόεδρο του The Hellenic Initiative, της πρωτοβουλίας των Ελλήνων της Διασποράς, που έχουν βάλει ως στόχο τη συμβολή τους στην ανάκαμψη της χώρας μας. Ο Άντριου Λιβέρης είναι σύμβουλος μεγάλων πολυεθνικών επιχειρήσεων σε όλο τον κόσμο σήμερα και θα μας μιλήσει για τον τρόπο με τον οποίο οι επιχειρήσεις αλλάζουν τον κόσμο τα τελευταία χρόνια και γιατί στο επίκεντρο αυτής της αλλαγής βρίσκεται ο καπιταλισμός των ενδιαφερομένων μερών. Hi, Andrew. Hi, Andrew. Thank you so much for finding the time to join us. I really appreciate this. You are in Sydney now, I'm in Greece now, and our issue is the new level of consciousness of the purpose of capitalism and the purpose of corporations. And I would like to begin our conversation by asking you, 1 year into the pandemic, is capitalism a great loser or a great winner?
Thank you, Anastasia, and I'm very happy to be here. It's hard to talk about winning and losing. You need to figure out who your opponent is. It's like a game. Here, I prefer to think of the team analogy, the old saying, there's no I in team. The pandemic has taught us all how to work together in a system that is not really caught up. If you look at the triangle between business, government, and society, the pandemic has brought society into acute perspective. Loved ones are getting sick and dying. People that we know, our friends, our fellow countrymen, our countries on our borders, continents have all been attacked by this common enemy. What has capitalism done? It has really not been able to catch up with the needs of society under stress like now. But actually, the first 20 years of this century, we've had 9/11, we've had the global financial crisis of 2009, and now we've had the pandemic. 3 major interruptions to what the 20th century showed is the peace dividend after World War II. Capitalism after World War II was growth, and maybe growth at all costs. We now have society telling us that it can't be growth at all costs, that the human being and the planet need to be taken into account, that capitalism needs to be redefined. It's not the end of capitalism. I think capitalism, under its journey of freedom and entrepreneurism, will always exist. I think markets will always appreciate the rights of an individual and the rights to do what needs to be done within the rules of society. But the rules are being rewritten. Society is demanding new rules. And I think purpose-based enterprises have arrived. Business is stepping up. Governments are going to need to respond, as we've seen with the election of a different type of government, for example, in the United States. So is it the end of capitalism? No. It's a necessary redefinition that puts society at the top of the triangle.
Business, government, and society, the important triangle. The pandemic highlighted that multi-stakeholder responsibility is here, and it is here to stay. As you already said, business has been in the spotlight more than ever. Society has been in the spotlight more than ever. And my question is, how comfortable are companies and CEOs with that responsibility? And how comfortable are we as a society with them having that responsibility? I mean, do we trust them, Andrew, to define what good is and for which stakeholders?
Yeah, I think the answer to that, in short, has to be not yet. But I do see leadership occurring, especially in the United States. The Me Too movement, Black Lives Matter, social and civil justice has brought to acute attention that corporations have to take a lead, not just to be philanthropic, not just to support interest groups to elect the right elected officials, but actually totally to be participative in redefining the rules of equality, of fairness, and in fact of purpose and protecting the planet. Businesses that are taking that lead are being rewarded because their employees are saying, I want to work for that company. Their communities are saying, I want that company here. So the CEOs are taking a risk because the owner of this, the shareholder, needs to put in place the metrics that reward purpose based enterprises. You see, earning the right to operate from society is a long vision. And frankly, in the last many decades of capitalism, companies are being judged on quarterly results. The metrics have
Mm.
been how much money can I make in 90 days or 360 days? That tipping point, that change is arriving now. And I think the leaders in this change are being rewarded by actually having the better employees come to work for them, the better government regulations, because they're at the table helping redefine what those rules should be. But it's still very slow and not yet fully arrived.
Very slow. And this comes to my next question. To what extent do you feel that investors nowadays are actually taking into account the ESG performance of the companies in which they invest? I mean, profit is still the number one criterion, or are
Yeah.
we witnessing a profound change in corporate and investors' culture?
I think we've gone from talking and maybe getting the headlines to now actually putting in place metrics that we can actually hold companies and boards to account. The emergence of ESG metrics and the demand for them by the activist investor is now here. And I think it's going to accelerate the climate financial disclosures on climate alone as we get 26 as an example of that. I do think there's leaders like my good friend, the chair of the B team, Paul Pullman, former chairman of Unilever, and the B team was founded by Sir Richard Branson. I'm a member of that, and we've wrote a recent article about the country of Indonesia and how showcasing their example of not losing tropical forests and making it a
Yes.
financial outcome such that they can actually benefit creating more forests. The pressure has arrived, the metrics are arriving, the behaviors will change when the metrics are in place. You should expect what you inspect, said famously by Warren
Mhm.
Buffett, the ultimate investor. And I think ESG metrics are arriving such that corporations will be held to account. I think I would say in the next 2 or 3 years, this will be an accelerating trend, and annual meetings and boardrooms will be under incredible pressure to put these in place.
Mm. Uh, we are witnessing the close relationship of climate change with the pandemic. And climate change, you know better than anyone, that is the ultimate problem today, but it is far too large for any organization to tackle alone. And investing in solutions presents both a risk and an opportunity. Uh, I think that we are seeing these days a clear desire in foster greater collaboration between the private and the public sector. And I'm asking you, are you optimistic that this collaboration can be deepened? I mean, what is needed on the part of business and government in order to ensure a more sustainable future?
So I think it's a tremendous question because I do think, as in my first, collaboration is the operative word. I said team is the operative word. I think we've got to absolutely totally get to the table all the key components of the solution space and scale up the solutions globally. And I think energy policy, environmental policy, water policy, and human policies are now all interacting such we have to protect the planet. We only have the one planet until we can populate Mars, which is 100 years from now. We need to protect this planet. I am now very much saying that we have to find affordable ways to do it, but we have to have stretch goals to get it done. So, vision of net zero by 2050 is an absolute must on the emission standards. No country and no company should abdicate that total target. And in fact, I'm now an advocate, and others like me, of actually being more aggressive. I think we should have a 2030 target. I think we should be halfway there by 2030, as President Biden just announced. I think we have to put all the solutions on the table, all the components. Release less emissions by using less energy, use natural energy and use renewable energy, create a circular economy, force circularity through recycling policies, force targets on carbon reduction by a price on carbon. These are very aggressive policies, but I think we
Yes.
as a human species, we can react to that. And let me not forget that it's, and we'll not forget to say, it's not just carbon. It's everything we bury in the planet. All of our smartphones, all of our batteries, all of our wind turbines also get buried when they're no longer used. So that is an interim solution. I think we've got to put our most incredible talent to the table to get full circularity. So this is just one step. Carbon is just the beginning. We have to do it with all of the waste we have on this planet.
All these things need also a very strong leadership, Andrew. And I would like to ask you, what are the new and emerging leadership characteristics coming out of this crisis? What are also, if any, the differences between political leaders and business leaders?
It's a wonderful way to think about these new demands. Leadership characteristics and attributes have been, you know, I have learned in a 40 odd year career that a leader has to be willing to change as the world around changes. That you lead, the word lead is because you lead that change, that you have to embrace the reality of where you are, make the decisions that may not be popular, lead from the front, build a team of around you. The cycle of doing that is accelerating. It's moving faster and faster and faster. These crises that are occurring, like the pandemic, is forcing us all to collaborate rather than be adversarial, and to use words like either or, to use words like and. And that means a collaboration model that maybe we are still having to relearn. You asked the question trust earlier. Business is trusted more, but you have to demonstrate and earn that trust. So you have to show empathy. You have to show soft skills. You have to show you care. You have to show that you're willing to actually put out a hand to help the other. Sometimes that looks like you're a soft leader. That's not true, because at the same time, you have to be decisive. You have to make the tough decisions, and you can't make the popular decision. Now, put those two things together. How can you show soft and caring, yet still make the tough decisions that aren't popular? That combination of skills, I think, is what we need to put in place today. And I encourage young leaders to learn those. There's no premium on age here. You can do this when you're a teenager, you can do this when you're my age or older. And I think this is what the world is looking for, the combination of the soft and the tough, which maybe we've had in human history before. But in a democracy, it's harder to elect that sort of person, because sometimes we just elect the popular, or sometimes we just
Yes.
elect the person who talks good. But that combination is what we need to have. And that's why business is a great place to develop it, because it is being developed in the business community.
Excellent position, Andrew. You made an excellent position also on the uh, on the liaison between technology and leadership. Data and analytics have become a valuable source of information and knowledge, you told us in the CEO Initiative Forum in November in Greece. And I would like to ask, how does technology, data and analytics change the way in which business leaders and political leaders are called upon to lead? What skills are becoming necessary in this context?
as I said, maybe in our prior conversation and the whole discussion about IT and digital, is we are in the early stages of the S curve. We are learning how to use these powerful machines that previously we had time to assimilate, read, research data, and today it's at our fingertips. So the ability to get timely information to make it knowledge so we can make better decisions has arrived. So the interaction when you're talking with the machines that are giving you this data is not that the machines know the answer. The computers do not know the answer. You can make better decisions with better data. Traveling, as I call it, at the speed of live, not at the speed of light, at the speed of live, means that you have to actually have around you the ability to sift and sort all this amazing information coming to you, the data from the factories, the data from the supply chains, the data from the financial markets, the data from governments. Everything that's coming at you has to be distilled into critical decision points that you then can make fast decisions on. Not necessarily decisions that have to be done such that you make a decision based on the wrong data, but be confident that you've got all the data in your hands. You don't need to go and develop more data. There used to be a term called a paralysis by analysis. Well, we don't have analysis and paralysis anymore. This is why I get frustrated sometimes at bureaucracies and governments. This is why I get frustrated sometimes at this notion that we don't have enough information. We have all the information. We need to make now the right decisions, whether it be on climate change, on energy policy, and all the policies that affect humans. Using this incredible tool we now have is the arrival of the digital age. It won't replace humans, but it'll make us smarter to make the better decisions. That's the era we're in.
Yes. Towards a capitalism that better serves society, the title of our conversation. Where exactly does the role of government end and the role of business begin?
It's blurring, as I've already indicated. It's now joined at the hip, maybe the triangle analogy I used. When I get asked by young people, what career should I do? I say, look, when I was graduating as an engineer, I was told by my professors, go out there and join a company and learn, what it's like to be in an environment where you have to make decisions in a corporate sense. Young people today don't have to do that. Young people today can become entrepreneurs and can become, people who start their own businesses. But one thing young people should learn to do early is to serve society. Of course, serving in the military is something we're used to, but serving society is a new thought. Serving society means that actually you can now understand the needs of society. And frankly, people like me and, maybe our generation, um, we never thought of society as a customer. We thought of society as a place where we could draw employees or we can, be their neighbors. Today, the blueprint we're all operating in is that society and learning how to serve society blurs the line between business and government. It means that, and frankly, I'm doing a lot of government work here in Australia. I do it for Greece. I do it for the US. I've served US presidents. I'm serving Australian prime ministers. Why? I don't need to. I can happily just go do some business endeavors beyond boards because I feel a need to serve, to give society back what I've learned. Young people should do that today. That blurring of the line, it's not the end of capitalism. It's the rebirth of a new type of capitalism. Capitalism and democracy is not going through a divorce. It's going through a recommitment of its vows. And therefore, we have to learn what that recommitment looks like in an era where the digital economy, that we have to protect the planet, and that where geopolitics are making life more complicated. That is where I think capitalism can still play a role, but the right type of capitalism.
The stakeholder capitalism, first of all.
Or inclusive capitalism, as it's sometimes called, and I've used that term before. Inclusive, no one's excluded.
Thank you so much, Andrew, for this amazing conversation. It's a great talk. Thank you so much for having you.
Anastasia, thank you. I know the Delphi Forum is later, but Kalopaska.
Thank you.